You canceled plans again. Not because something came up, not because you forgot, but because the idea of putting on real clothes, stepping into loud places, and making small talk for hours just felt exhausting. You looked at the event on your calendar, stared at it for a while, and thought, do I have the energy for this today? And the honest answer was, no. So you stayed home, again. Not because you don't care, not because you're lazy, but because something inside you needed quiet, stillness, space. And here's what most people don't realize. There's a deeper psychological reason for this, and it actually says something rare and powerful about how your brain works. In this video, we're going to explore the psychology of people who genuinely prefer staying in rather than going out. Why socializing might drain you, even when you like the people involved. Why silence feels comforting, not empty. And why this isn't something to fix, but something to understand, appreciate, and even protect. By the end of this video, you may finally have words for things you've always felt, but never knew how to explain. Let's begin where it all starts, with your nervous system. Some people are born with what psychologists like Dr. Elaine Aron call sensory processing sensitivity. What does that mean? It means your brain and body absorb more of what's happening around you. You hear background noises that others ignore. You notice the subtle change in someone's tone before anyone else picks up on it. You feel tension in a room, even if no one says a word. It's not just that you're observant. Your system literally takes in more data more deeply. So imagine what happens when you step into a crowded space. There's music, laughter, conversations, smells, energy, movement. Your brain isn't filtering it out, it's absorbing all of it. And after a while, it's just too much. You feel overstimulated, overwhelmed, almost like your skin is buzzing. That's your body trying to say, hey, this is too loud, too fast, too much. So when you choose to stay home, it's not avoidance. It's recovery. You're giving your brain a break from a world that never stops shouting. And honestly, that's not weakness, that's wisdom. But it goes even deeper than that. Because for you, being around people, even ones you love, takes energy. It's not that you don't enjoy them, you probably do. But it costs you something. The listening, the responding, the matching energy levels, it adds up. You could have an amazing time out and still wake up the next day completely drained. Meanwhile, solitude, that's where your energy comes back. When the noise fades, when you can hear your own thoughts again. Maybe it's journaling, or reading, or just lying in bed in silence. That's not doing nothing, that's your nervous system recharging. People might say, come on, it's just one dinner, don't be so antisocial. But they don't feel the crash that comes afterward. You do. And instead of pushing through that crash, you're learning to respect your limits. You're choosing your peace. And that's not laziness, that's emotional maturity. And this connects to something even more interesting, how your brain is wired when you're alone. There's a part of the brain called the default mode network. It's most active when you're not focused on the outside world. When you're reflecting, daydreaming, just being. Research shows that for some people, this network is especially active. And chances are, you're one of them. You think deeply, you analyze your own thoughts, you revisit past conversations, you wonder about the future. Your brain is like a rich inner landscape, always moving, always weaving stories, always thinking. So when people say, don't you get bored staying home? You genuinely don't. Because your mind isn't silent, it's full. Where others need external stimulation to feel alive, you just need time to be with your thoughts. And in that space, you feel the most like yourself. Let's go a level deeper. Many social situations revolve around performance. Looking the part, saying the right things, being on. You've probably felt that pressure before. To wear the outfit you didn't feel like wearing. To smile through conversations you weren't interested in. To keep the energy up even when you were running on empty. But here's the thing. You're not built to perform for validation. You're built to connect when it's real. You don't crave attention, you crave authenticity. That's why you don't feel the need to show up just to be seen. You're not looking for applause, you're looking for alignment.
So when you stay home, you're not flaking. You're choosing honesty over obligation. You're refusing to perform a version of yourself that doesn't feel true. And that kind of integrity, that's rare. And that brings us to something else. You don't want 50 friends. You want a few people you can go deep with. You don't light up from small talk about the weather. You want to know what someone believes in, what they're healing from, what keeps them up at night. So when you're invited to parties or group hangouts where their conversation stays surface level, you find yourself drifting. Not because you're rude, but because your heart just isn't there. You'd rather spend 3 hours in deep conversation with one person than an entire night hopping between loud rooms full of chatter. You crave depth, you crave real. That's why staying home doesn't feel lonely to you, because shallow company often feels lonelier than solitude ever could. You're not closed off, you're just intentional with your energy. And that's not a flaw, that's your gift. Have you ever been told you're too chill or boring because you didn't want to go out every weekend or jump from one plan to the next? The truth is, you're just wired differently. Your dopamine system, the part of your brain that responds to excitement and novelty, doesn't need big spikes. You don't need constant stimulation to feel good. You're not chasing the next thrill. A quiet walk, a cup of tea, a playlist you love, a podcast that makes you think. These simple moments bring you peace. And while others might need loud environments to feel alive, you feel most alive in stillness. You're not missing out. You've simply discovered that joy doesn't have to be loud. It can be soft, gentle, subtle. You found beauty in the quiet, and not everyone knows how to do that. Here's the final piece. You've spent a lot of time with yourself. Enough to know what feels right and what doesn't. That's called self-awareness. It's the ability to tune in, to notice your needs before they become emergencies. When your body says, "I'm tired," you listen. When your mind feels overstimulated, you give it rest. When your heart says, "I need a break," you don't argue with it. Some people wait until they crash to set boundaries. You've learned to notice the early signs. To catch the whisper before it becomes a scream. And sure, it might mean saying no more often, but every time you do, you're saying yes to yourself. That kind of emotional intelligence is rare, and it should be celebrated, not shamed. So let's take a moment to reflect. You stay home not because you're lazy, but because your nervous system needs recovery. Because social energy costs you more than it gives back. Because your mind is rich, alive, and full of thought. You stay home because you're not chasing attention, you're seeking truth. Because you want fewer, deeper connections, not endless noise. Because you've learned to find joy in stillness and beauty in simplicity. And most of all, because you've taken the time to understand yourself. To honor your own rhythms, even if the world doesn't always understand them. That's not lazy, that's rare. And it's beautiful. So if this video felt like it was describing you, let me know in the comments. You're not alone, and you're not broken. Leave a like if this resonated, subscribe for more insights into the psychology of quiet minds and deep hearts. And next time, we'll explore something just as powerful. Why people who overthink everything are often the most creative minds of all. See you in the next one.